Walt Whitman became known as an unconventional writer, best recognized for his poetic edition Leaves of Grass, published in 1855. The work's release followed several years of journalistic employ that included a stint under editor Samuel Clements, better known as Mark Twain. Whitman's poetry was heavily criticized due to his employment of free verse and erotic imagery that was considered obscenity. His work did not conform into the existing British model of poetry, which was a tradition of rhyme, meter, and structure. Upon the eruption of the Civil War, his brother enlisted in the Union Army. George Whitman earned the rank of lieutenant in the 51st New York Infantry. On December 10, 1862, his name appeared amongst the wounded during the Battle of Fredericksburg. Walt traveled south from New York in search of his brother. He successfully located him and several days later visited nearby Chatham Manor, site of a makeshift hospital. He compiled his candid observations on conditions that he would publish years later. The visit altered the direction of his life. He had witnessed Armageddon. His vivid accounts of amputated limbs, dead bodies, overcrowded, and frightful conditions prompted him to reassess his own priorities. He could never return to New York and revert to a purposeless existence. Upon returning to Washington, D.C., he volunteered at the various hospitals to serve as a nurse. His Quaker religion had long before confirmed his belief in pacifism. He concluded that simply opposing the atrocities of war as a spectator was an insignificant role. According to Whitman, his nursing duties saved his soul. He found purpose, meaning, and substance in befriending the weak and wounded, bearing gifts, playing games, and writing letters home to wounded soldiers' families. Many of these correspondences were farewells. In 1875, he published his wartime journals, Memorandum During the War. He continued writing up until his death in 1892. The empathetic sincerity behind his verse was reinforced by the commitment he'd opted to invest in through his medical duties. The Chatham Manor grounds still remain. Soldiers are still being wounded and dying upon global battlefields. Walt Whitman turned his back upon conformity and the pursuit of literary recognition. He would still ultimately become acknowledged as one of America's most heralded poets. His works today endure as relevant as during his turbulent era, and are far better comprehended.